What's up, Browns fans? Spencer German here with you, alongside Anthony Moeglin. Another conversation here as we get you set for tomorrow's preseason opener against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Browns had a joint practice yesterday on Wednesday to set the stage for that game. Plenty to discuss on that front as well. But yeah, we're going to finally have preseason football in our lives, Megs, and there's some controversy with the starting quarterback situation, which we obviously have to get into.
Dare we say the most anticipated preseason game ever?
At least in Browns history, yeah. I mean, was Tim Tebow's preseason debut like as big of a deal as this? Maybe. He had a pretty big following coming into the NFL too, so I don't know. Maybe I think that might be up there. I don't know if anybody else has been as transcendent though as this guy. So
it's reached a fever pitch, and it's done so way earlier than I think anybody could have anticipated. Right? Like everybody. I mean, Stephen A. Smith was talking about it today on ESPN. Like everybody has an opinion.
Wrongly, but yes.
Right, wrongly, but rightly, you put a tweet out of Dan Orlovsky being like, "Hey, everybody, can we just turn our brains on for 1 second here?" And that's the thing, dude. It's like this somewhere along the lines, this game changed from preseason week 1 to the Super Bowl, and everyone's barking about practice reps and barking about starters not playing, and we got to remember just for 1 second, this is a 5th-round pick playing in his first preseason game ever, and it's an unbelievable opportunity for him, one that probably nobody in that building thought would be the case. He probably wasn't slated to start this, but he's got his chance to take over and to kind of improve his stock within that facility, and it's an unbelievable opportunity.
Yeah, and I just don't know, I don't know where this national narrative was even birthed in the first place, because it does seem to be more of a national thing.
Mm-hmm.
My theory, I guess, is it was birthed from finding a way to make Shedeur Sanders part of the national conversation. When he's in a quarterback competition, he's 4th on the depth chart, and so people are like, "Hey, let's make this a topic and talk about it today." Because but to me, as somebody who's in that building every day, it just reads as a bunch of people who are misinformed about the situation the Browns are in and how they're handling this quarterback situation. Kind of I don't get this, the idea that they are, and I think the exact wording is setting him up for failure is kind of the way that people are wording it. And I just think that that's such a hyperbolic response to where he's at right now. Two things can be true at once. He can, in my opinion, have earned first-team reps and probably should have taken some at this point. But that also doesn't mean that they're setting him up for failure or to fail in it's a preseason game, guys. Yeah. I don't think the Browns are going, no matter what, this game is not going to make or break Shedeur Sanders' career. And listen, we know what happened with DTR a couple years ago where he was ill-prepared for his first start. I'm not saying the Browns are innocent in every decision that they make. That was bad when they did that with DTR, but that was also the regular season. This is a preseason game. Him not taking reps with the ones, he's going to take reps with a lot of the guys he's already been playing with anyway. And yes, they're going against the Panthers first team for 12 plays, I think it is what Dave Canales said he's going to send him out there for. So I understand that. I don't know. I don't know what incentive the Browns have. They have their quarterback room is in shambles. They have no quarterbacks right now. They're desperately trying to find one. They took 2 in the draft because they don't have one. Yeah. What is the incentive for the Browns to take a guy in the 5th round who they traded up in the 5th round to get, by the way, and then sabotage, quote unquote, sabotage his career, sabotage his chance to play and start and all those different things? Why waste the draft pick? You know how much these GMs care about these draft picks? They're not going to waste a draft pick on a guy that they plan on just ruining his career. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. None of that makes any sense. And I don't know where this came from other than trying to just talk about Shedeur Sanders on a national level. I just don't get it. To me, like you said, it's a great opportunity for him to go out and prove himself. And frankly, Megs, all the Shedeur Sanders supporters, the one thing they keep going back to is man, it doesn't matter who he's playing with. He's going to ball out anyway. Yeah. And if that's how you feel, if you're a true Shedeur Sanders supporter, from what I can gather, and that's how you feel about Shedeur Sanders, him going against the first team with the twos, you should just assume he's going to ball out anyway because he's Shedeur Sanders and he's so great. So if that's how you feel, like, what does it matter who he's with? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to be fine in your eyes if that's the case.
It's a very it's such a good, and I think, in my opinion, like it's a good opportunity for him for a number of reasons. But the one is that, like, if stuff doesn't go right early on against the Panthers first team defense, like, no one's going to hold that against him. Like, hey, if he's getting sacked, or if he's doing the right things and maybe stuff's not happening for the Browns offense as a whole, they're not going to hold that against him. But as the game progresses, however long he does end up playing, he's going to get opportunities to get his feet wet, to get out there and to actually get stuff on tape so that he can start improving. Like, it's so good that this is happening for him, and I'm frankly excited. Not even from the Shedeur, like the Shedeur hype standpoint, but just for him to just get out and play. Like, it's this conversation's been crazy because I try to find the benefit of the doubt in a lot of things. Like, with these national media types, right? You and I are in it every day. You especially, you're at the facility every day. We're seeing the stuff. We're doing all the things. We know the Browns in and out. But for some of the others, I think of, hey, I don't know what's happening in Cardinals camp. I don't know what's happening in Dolphins camp. I don't know what's happening in Broncos camp or Raiders camp or whatever. And all we do is see stuff when we're scrolling on Twitter or whatever. And then you form these opinions. Jackson wants to say hi. But you form these opinions from a way far away. And so I give a little bit of grace there, but also too, it's Shedeur Sanders. You put him in the headline, everyone's going to watch and react to it just the same as we are right here. But I couldn't be more excited for tomorrow night.
And from that standpoint, I guess they got us. They got us to talk about it. So what are we doing? Whatever. But no, I mean, listen, like, again, it's either you think Shedeur Sanders is so good that it doesn't matter who he's playing with and he's going to ball. And, like, to me, this should be viewed as like, hey, this is his opportunity. The preseason game, and I've said this for a while now, like, the preseason games were going to be his opportunity anyway, because it was going to be his chance to go out and prove, like, hey, what I do on the practice field is one thing. What I do in the classroom is another thing. But when I'm on that field, the lights are on. That's where that's my stage. And I think that's what, like, one of my biggest takeaways from him in college is that, like, he just thrives in that environment. Like, it doesn't matter that he might not have the strongest arm of all the quarterbacks in this draft, whatever. Like, he always seemed to play at a high level when the lights were the brightest, and on just when he's on the football field, like, he's like a gamer in that way. Like, he has that gamer mentality. And so if you believe that that's who he is, it doesn't matter if he's with and then the other thing too, and you brought up Dan Orlovsky's comments, like, Dan Orlovsky was spot on. I don't know what else the Browns are supposed to do. Okay. In a perfect world, they'd have all four of these quarterbacks available, and they probably would have started maybe Kenny Pickett and then gone to Dylan Gabriel and then gone to Shedeur Sanders. But two of those guys, in Pickett and Gabriel, are hurt. And so they don't want to risk the injuries. They're trying to make sure that they can sort of nurse them back to full health. And Flacco's at the Flacco's 40 years old. They don't need to see. It's the same reason why he hasn't, like, Flacco's taken, moderate reps with the ones until everybody got hurt. And now he's taking most of them. But, like, they know what they have in Joe Flacco. They don't need to see Joe Flacco in the preseason. Like, the guy came off the couch and was balling for 5 games with the Browns in 2023. Like, they're not worried about him. So I understand sitting him, not risking the injury. They also need to make sure, like, they get somebody to the regular season healthy if all these other guys are hurt. So the only option you really had left was to start Shedeur Sanders. And again, it's a great opportunity for him. And yeah, you bring in Tyler Huntley as, like, just a backup. And that's that. Everyone was ripping on the Browns for that too. And I didn't get it either, because I was like, guys, like, this is the preseason. You bring in guys when guys get hurt. You're like, hey, we need to get through a couple preseason games here. In a way, like, he's kind of a crash test dummy. It's the sad reality of the NFL this time of year is, like, a lot of these guys aren't making the roster, and they're just kind of here to take hits in preseason games so that you can get yourself to the regular season. But that's what Tyler Huntley's kind of here to do. Like, the whole, they got 5 quarterbacks now thing was like, yeah, because they needed one to get through these preseason games, or at least this preseason game. I just think everyone was making a bigger deal out of the stuff than they needed to. I just straight up view it as a great opportunity for Shedeur. And frankly, I think he's going to play well. And if he does, he forces the issue more, right? Like, he makes the Browns have to think about, okay, should we start giving him more first-team reps, which I do think he's already earned to this point. But that's the way he changes the conversation, is if he balls out in this game on Friday and beyond.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what balls out means, because, and that's a funny way to say it. Sorry, drop in the comments there.
Phrasing.
But let's talk about that, because I think we have to make sure that, hey, obviously we're getting excited here, and everyone pretty much everywhere is excited. But like, what is successful on Friday night? And I think especially early on, like, temper the expectations. Like, he's not going to go out and throw for 250 and 3 touchdowns, right? This is going to be something where you want to see, and this came up the other day in practice, like, operation is going to be huge. Like, can he get in and out of the huddle? Can he get are his guys lined up right? Are they going on the right snap count? No false starts, all that stuff. Like, operationally, it needs to be clean, like 0 mistakes from an operation standpoint. Like, that's got to be the goal. And then from the actual football standpoint, like, make sure he's quick, right? Quick decisions, right? I wrote about this the other day, but it's important that he's quick. He has quick decisions, because that was one of his one of the negatives in his pre-draft process, was that he holds onto the ball and he drifts and he tries to make the big play. Like, hey, this is the NFL now. You get from the first read, second read, third read, check down, or first read, second read, check down. Like, get to your completions or get to your throwaway. Don't take those negative plays. And then the last one would be, like, make sure that ball stays out of danger. Like, make sure we're not throwing interceptions. Make sure that ball's never being even a chance to get picked off, to have turnovers. Try to move the sticks as best you can. But if you do those 3 things, in my opinion, like, that's a successful night, that you're showing, hey, I'm improving. I can run the operation, and I can do the things necessary to keep us in football games, which potentially that would be what he has to do come the regular season.
I think that's well said, and those are the types of things that you're looking for in this game from him. To this point, I've talked about it. Like, they've put more on Dylan Gabriel's plate than Shedeur Sanders. Do they expand that playbook for him a little bit more this week? This week, we'll see. But like, I think what we've seen from Shedeur is, like, he's really good and he thrives at just like the quick drop back, get the ball out type throws. Whether it's like slants over the middle, whether it's little arrow routes coming off the line of scrimmage for like a tight end or a running back or whatever. Like, he's been really good with those. And then when he's had to make some of the bigger throws and, sort of navigate the pocket, he's done a good job. I think there's times where he has drifted into pressure. I think we saw on Monday, a classic, like, rookie mistake type thing where they were running like these hurry up offense situations with like 25 seconds on the clock and no timeouts. Or maybe one timeout, and you had to kind of get down to field goal range with like a third down. And after the first time he did it, he gets the first time in field goal range. And then the second time he did it, he takes 2 sacks, and it's like, now the clock's gone and you guys lose. Like, it's one of those things, like, you're learning. So yeah, like, all you want to see from Shedeur at this time of year is like that he's continuing to get better, that he's picking up things at the NFL level. And that, like, the Browns are seeing that progress that they're looking for. And I think that's what Friday is supposed to sort of pave the way for him to do. So I don't think that has to be like some freak out situation where, like, oh, they haven't prepared him for this. And it's like, guys, like, many of you already think he's prepared enough. So let's just go out and see what he can do. It's not that big of a deal. It's the preseason, and they didn't have a lot of other options. I will say this, though. I did think it was a little weird on Wednesday that they were even really wasting reps on Tyler Huntley taking snaps. And I get it. Kevin Stefanski said before practice, like, hey, we gotta get him acclimated because he's going to play in a game on Friday most likely, and he just got here on Tuesday. They either, A, should have signed somebody leading into the week and got them reps on Monday's practice, or B, like, just planned on getting him integrated today on their day off, like with walkthroughs and things like that. And he was here last year, so he should know some things about Kevin Stefanski's offense, even though it was a little bit different last year, obviously, we know. But, like, wasting valuable reps in a joint practice, which the Browns have said they use as one of their biggest evaluation tools, seemed like it was a little silly to me for a guy that's literally only here to play a couple quarters of a preseason game and then might not even be here next week. I'm guessing he will be here next week, but I'm just saying. That felt a little bit weird to me.
Yeah, it's hard because we all, you want to see – I mean, really, like, if Kenny's not going to play and Dylan's not going to play, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth because the trade-off is, you're basically saying to all the guys who are going to be playing with, not Teddy Bridgewater. Oh my gosh, who'd we just slipped my mind? Snoop Huntley. Yeah. All the guys.
I was like, wait, what?
Teddy Bridgewater. What the hell? all the guys who are going to be playing with Snoop, like you think about Luke Flory, you think about Gage, Larverdane, like you think about all those guys, like, hey, it has to also be fair to them that their quarterback who they're going to be playing with on Friday night can get in and out of the huddle, can do the right thing so that they can be evaluated. Like there's a little bit of that into it, but I agree with you, man. Like if they're going to say, and the Browns do say that, they die on that hill of these joint practices are, one of the most important things in evaluations, and they wasted a handful of reps on Snoop. Like it is tough. I go back and forth with it. I didn't think it was the end of the world, but of course Browns Twitter thought, the world was burning down.
Yeah, it was a little absurd. Another thing I thought was interesting, as Kevin Stefanski talked about his plan for the starters on Friday, I think kind of as expected here. He's not going to play really anybody. He mentioned Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman were two guys that weren't going to play, understandably so. When he says most of the starters won't play, I assume it's most of the notable names that you can bring up. I think last year, I looked this up earlier. Last year in the first preseason game, there was a handful of guys that played, and they included Wyatt Teller, Ethan Posick, Martin Emerson, who we all know obviously isn't playing, and Grant Delpit. And that sort of struck me as like maybe those are the guys that say to Coach Kevin Stefanski, like, hey, I want to be out there. Like, I need these reps to kind of get my body feeling like I'm ready for actual football, so I want to play. And so I could see like a handful of guys like that maybe being out there. But he's going to protect these guys mostly. And in the past, I have generally said, like, I get it. But this year, with the way he's run training camp differently and trying to sort of set a different precedent and mindset, I actually feel like they can't take the preseason as lightly as they have in previous years and just like put everybody in bubble wrap. Mm-hmm. Maybe they don't play till week 3 of the preseason. But I do think Stefanski need to play these guys more, the starters particularly, more than he did last season in the preseason, because think about how slow they started last year, Megs. Like they cannot afford that again. They need to hit the ground running. And so whatever philosophy that he's used in the past of like trying to protect guys and whatever, like he's done with training camp where he's changed the sort of intensity of that, I think he needs to change his philosophy a little bit for the preseason here as well and give those guys some more quality. Every rep matters this time of year to like get yourself ready for the season. And with the way the schedule plays out, the gauntlet they have, you can't afford to start slow again. So, again, they're probably not going to play tomorrow. I doubt they play week 2 because you're going to have 2 joint practices with the Eagles that you use kind of as like your primary practice or, for the ones they're going to take a lot of those reps. But if it's just week 3, fine. But they got to play these starters at least a little bit more than they did a year ago to feel like you're getting them actually prepared for the start of the season.
Yeah, it's such a damned if you do, damned if you don't catch-22, situation, because we're going to watch tonight. We're going to watch all of the Bengals starters play tonight because of the same reason, right? Throughout all of Joe Burrow's career, they start 0-1, they start 0-2, 1-2, and they're trying to nip that in the butt because they have aspirations. You look back, I don't know if you watched the quarterback thing on Netflix, but, they missed the playoffs by 1 game, and they had 3 or 4 losses early in the season that you're like, was by like a point, right? And they lost to the Patriots in week 1 and like had some inexcusable stuff. And you're like, yeah, we're going to play in the preseason. Does that mean does that equate to wins? Like you never know. But I fall in the camp of like managed reps, like what Dave Canales is doing tonight is what I would do. Friday night is like what I would do. Hey guys, starters, you're going to play 12 plays. Give it your all for 12 plays, and then we're getting you out of here. Get your work in. Make sure you're practicing. You're doing the stuff you need to do, and then we'll get you out. I don't know. I wouldn't take the approach of like person by person. Hey, you can do it. You cannot. Outside of Myles Garrett and Joel Bitonio, but like I think I would have made it a blanket thing. Like, all right, if you're not going to the Hall of Fame, you're going to play for 10 snaps, and then we'll get you out of there, just so you can get your work in. I don't know. It's one of those things that you can go either way on it, and you're probably right either way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would have liked to see him play the starters a little bit in this game, especially because you only had the 1 joint practice. Again, I understand if they weren't going to play like Myles. There's certain guys that you just know. Like, you're not worried about Myles. You're not probably worried about Joe Flacco, at least right now, although I do think if he's the starter, you probably want to play him that last week because you want him to get some of those extra reps with the first team before the season starts. But like even Joe Bitonio, like I'm not necessarily worried about Joe Bitonio. He's older. He could get hurt, and you want him to be able to play the whole season. So there's certain guys where I get it. But by and large, man, like they got to go about this preseason a little bit differently. And like because last year they barely played him in the first game. They had plans. Kevin Stefanski made it sound like he had plans to play more of the starters in the last game, and then that went out the window once Deshaun had the shoulder soreness and that old debacle. And they were like, never mind. offensive line was all banged up, so they didn't want to put him out there and risk injury that way, and it all kind of blew up. But then you saw it. Like, they got off to a terrible start because of it.
They got
I just can't.
by the
Right,
Cowboys.
right. And so I think you need to set a different tone with the preseason as well, and we'll see what that strategy is the rest of the way. I hate to be like, play guys in the preseason guy, because I really don't think it matters all that much, but I do think it also can get you moving a little bit quicker and more up to speed by the time the season starts, which this team has to sort of do that if they're going to have a chance to start this season with any sort of success, because there are some good teams on that schedule. And sometimes you can catch teams off guard as they try to find their own rhythm if you're already kind of in rhythm when things kick off here. So the last thing I wanted to get to was just the latest in this Quinshon Judkins situation, which this isn't like a major development, I would say, because we still don't have a court date. It's not going to tell us anything into, when he's going to be back just yet. We need more information here. But on Wednesday, there was a document filed where Quinshon Judkins, through his legal team, waived his right to a speedy trial. What that means is he was, by law, expected to have his case go to trial within 60 days of his arrest, which was like the end of or early July. So that would have meant, like, coming up here in September, he would have probably been going to, or getting ready to go to trial. And he delayed it with this waiver to be 175 days. Now, there's a number of reasons of why you would do this, and I don't need to bore everybody with all of them, but like, in some respects, like, sometimes people do this because they're trying to gather more evidence for the defense to defend their client appropriately, and because they think they can win their case or whatever. It also could be a move to just prolong the process and try to find an agreement on a settlement. But I also, my first thought went to, okay, he's trying to delay this until after the season, and maybe in the vein of Rashee Rice not getting suspended last year while he was dealing with his legal situation that just got resolved back in July, try to play out his rookie year and then face whatever discipline comes once he actually has a result from the trial itself come January or February or whatever. So that's my initial thought. We don't know yet what this means, where this goes, but I think it's worth at least sharing that with the audience, that is something that is now on our radar, and we'll see what kind of plays out from here.
Yeah. You laid it out perfectly. Not too much to add, but it feels to me almost like, also outside, barring the legal stuff, like, hey, dude, like, you don't have a contract. You're currently unemployed, right?
Yeah.
Like, you need to do everything you can. And, from a negotiating standpoint, I think this opens a whole can of worms for the Browns and for this whole process of negotiating. Like, hey, we're going to, kind of hold this against you type of a thing. I don't know. It's going to get weird. There's a lot. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But at least there's some kind of movement in the story.
Well, and to your point, like, the contract situation complicates this a lot more than any other case or incident in the NFL, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And, like, can the Browns, I think ultimately they're going to sign him. They used a second round pick on him, but can the Browns really commit, a certain amount of money to a guy that he could, who knows, like, what the results of this trial are, who knows how serious it is, or like whatever. Like, if this were to end even worse than what they maybe are expecting, now you're like committing, like, I don't know what the Browns could, like anxiousness is to sign him, and get this sort of figured out before they have like a ruling. So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways this could go with this new sort of development. But the Quinshon situation continues to be a one to monitor, and sort of an unfortunate one just all around for the organization, as we know. So
yeah, it's another black cloud that, like, let's just say they postpone the trial till January. He comes, he signs, he scores a bunch of touchdowns. It's like, here we go again. It's literally like, the more things change, the more they stay exactly the same.
Real quick, Megs, what's the number one thing you're going to be watching for on Friday night?
Okay, outside of all the other things that I talked about earlier with the quarterbacks, I think that I'm going to have my eyes on some of the young bucks. So Gage Larvadain, right? He's been the story of training camp, him and Luke Floria. I've been vocal about Floria. I'm rooting for, obviously, but these two young receivers have been making big plays. Harold Fannin as well. What are they going to use with him? How much are they going to use him if he plays a lot? Like, what is he able to do out on the field? And then also, too, just a big picture thing. Like, don't care who's in. What does this offense look like compared to what it looked like last year? Back to the Kevin Stefanski style, under center, more, bunch of tight ends, bunch of condensed formations, run the first, pass second. I'm going to have my eyes on those things come tomorrow.
Yeah, I think those are all good answers. I'm guessing Alex Wright and Isaiah McGuire are going to be two guys that potentially play. I'm interested to see what that kind of looks like. But you hit the nail on the head, man. Kevin Stefanski said the veterans were about Wednesday's practice. It's about the young guys on Friday. These rookies, Carson Schlesinger, Harold Fannin, the receiver room, Jamari Thrash. Can what we've seen at practice translate to a game? That's the type of stuff that I'm looking for, and I'm sure many fans will as well. So appreciate you guys stopping by. Shorter conversation than usual, but we'll be back after the game on Friday. I can promise you that. In the meantime, make sure you head on over to si.com/NFL/Browns. Also find us right here at the YouTube channel. And as always, keep on following along with all things Cleveland Browns with the Cleveland Browns on SI.